All right. We're back for another exciting adventure, like always. We're going to go ahead and jump really fast into this. I have Ryan and Ross with me. Hopefully, we'll have Luke with us later. Ross, how are you?
I'm good.
Ryan, what about you?
I'm good.
I've seen better days.
I feel you.
Mm.
All right. First thing I'm going to jump into is the Heisman race. So there's several people that are out there. Some of the names that have been talked about is Michael Penix from Washington, quarterback, Bo Nix, former Auburn quarterback, who's at Oregon, Jordan Travis, the quarterback at Florida State. They've even kind of mentioned that McCarthy guy from Michigan, Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver from Ohio State, Carson Beck from Georgia, and Jaden Daniels from LSU. I really feel like I know Bo Nix, a lot of people have been trying to push him, but I feel like it's either Michael Penix or Marvin Harrison Jr. Those are my two picks right now. Ross, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
Definitely Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix, not Michael Penix Jr. That's Marvin Harrison Jr. Michael Penix, and I'm actually going to go with Jaden Daniels. Uh, just from the stats he's been putting up recently. I think you at least definitely got to talk about him. But I mean, that was just a ridiculous. But it was against Florida, so Florida's defense has not been obviously not been that great. Uh, he hasn't. But then he put up the almost the same numbers against who they played last week. Alabama against Alabama. But almost put up the same type of numbers. So I mean, he's definitely improving there. He's not backsliding. So I don't know, but that's that was ridiculous numbers he put up yesterday. But I don't know. I still like Michael Penix. So
Well, I think so. My personal thought is, they say it's not, but if you're a quarterback and you have a couple losses under your belt, then that kind of gets you ruled out, because they were kind of like, if Caleb Williams, wins out, then he has a chance to win the Heisman. And now he's lost another. So they're kind of like, well, because he hasn't been playing that bad, but I feel like Penix, his team is undefeated. His team is still scoring. Marvin Harrison Jr. is catching a touchdown every single game. That would be kind of unique for someone like him to be a non-quarterback to win. He passed Chris Carter, I think it was, to be number third or fourth on the touchdown list at Ohio State. He's out of the 10 games, he's hit 100 yards each game. So I don't know, but I just don't see Carson Beck just because he's with Georgia. I feel like he's a game manager. He's kind of like an AJ McCarron and some of those guys, that Greg McElroy, some of those guys who were with Alabama back in the day. I don't know. Bo Nix is playing well, but Bo Nix hasn't looked good in a couple games. He hasn't been consistent, especially in that loss that they had. So,
and I think you have to look at that too. Definitely the consistency. So the two that you mentioned, like Michael Penix and Marvin Harrison Jr., being the most consistent as far as wins goes. Like I said, Jaden Daniels is putting up some kind of is definitely putting up Heisman numbers, but especially this kind of start of the season, when he really runs into kind of a really good defense, he doesn't doesn't bode very well sometimes. So I don't know. I don't see an SEC team winning a Heisman Trophy this year.
There hasn't been a defense in the Pac-12, so that's been helping Michael Penix. But it'd be good to see what Harrison can do because even some of the tough games that Ohio State's had, Harrison has still gotten some yards, even though that's been kind of lower scoring. But Ryan, what about you?
Well, first, for starters, it's got to be Bo Nix. And the reason why is because this is the year. He's improved under the offense. He's focused. He's having fun. And I just wouldn't be surprised if he's the dark horse candidate, which is a meme for all of you that don't know about that. I don't like the Heisman race as much as I used to because I think it should not just. And now I understand that Marvin Harrison Jr. is in the mix here, but I don't think it should just be considered a quarterback award. And it feels like it has been a quarterback award for a little while now. Because you've already brought up one person, or you've already brought up one team with a quarterback who could potentially be in the Heisman race, and his name is Carson Beck. But we all know that if anyone on Georgia deserved, and I believe this, if anyone on Georgia deserved the Heisman award, it would be the tight end, yeah, and everything. So Brock Bowers, or is that his name? Yeah,
Yeah.
That should be. He should be in contention. I mean, I think he should be up there right now in contention for that because what has he done? He is a game changer. He goes and has surgery, comes back and just completely, changes their offense back to a dominant level and everything. So, and he's just been clutch when he needs to be clutch. And I think that's what's important. Stats I know are important, but I think it's also important to be clutch when you need to be clutch, in a game. And he's that. I don't really have a leading candidate right now. I feel like it will probably come down to Penix, Harrison, and Bo Nix. Realistically, that's who it is. I don't know, they do 3 or 4 that go to. I think
they've been taking 3 here recently. Usually they take 5, but
I feel like those will be the 3 that definitely go. Jaden Daniels probably deserves to be up there as well. But yes, he does have a couple games that he didn't really produce as much in. And you can make an argument that he is quite literally their whole entire offense, which it's probably an argument for and against him being a Heisman candidate and everything. But I don't know. I really don't know. It's become more of a, like I said, there's more politicking behind it, I think, now than there used to be. So I would say it's likely. I would say it's between those 3 and one of them will win it. I think it'll probably come down to, I don't know all of their schedules. What do they have left and everything, but
well, if Washington and Oregon win out, then they will both be set to meet each other at the Pac-12 championship.
Does it happen before or after the championship games?
What, the Heisman?
Yeah.
It's always after. Because that was
the conference championship games?
Yeah, it's after the conference championships. Because that was one thing they always said might have ruined Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning had a mediocre SEC championship game against a really top-ranked Auburn defense. He still won. He still, he threw 1 interception, only had 200-something yards, but since he didn't throw for the 350 and 5 touchdowns, they were like, well, he's just not elite, and that's how Charles Woodson had won it that year.
All right, so if it comes down to those 3 people, Penix, Bo Nix, and Harrison, I say this. Harrison will win it if he has a phenomenal game against Michigan, because I know we're going to talk about Michigan here in a moment, but regardless of how you feel about all the Michigan stuff, their defense is still just really good so far for now. So if he has a phenomenal game against Michigan, I see them winning it. or I can see him winning it there. And for the other two, it'll just come down who plays. Maybe not even win necessarily, but just who has
Just
a
who
better
plays better.
game. Yeah, who has
Yeah.
just a. I mean, because you would hope that they. I mean, the last game, I didn't get to watch the last game, but the last game was really good. And I envision they'll be in the Pac-12 championship against each other because both teams are just they're doing enough to win.
Unless
And
there's a
so
major upset, I think there's
Oregon
nobody
State,
else that can really slow either one of those offenses down.
I would say Oregon State's the best. Has Oregon played Oregon State yet?
I can't remember. I have to look it up.
Oregon State and maybe even Washington State will be both those teams' Achilles heels. No, they're not as good as both those teams, but if there is, those will be the teams' Achilles heels. Just because rivalry games bring out a
Yeah, they play
different
Oregon.
beast.
They do play Oregon State. It's the last
and,
game of the season.
and I think Washington and Washington State's that last game. Am I right?
Probably.
Because I kind of remember a while back, like 5 years back, I remember us watching a little bit of Washington.
Washington has Oregon State this weekend and then Washington State next week.
So I mean, those are two. I'm not calling them tough teams necessarily, but those are two teams that could just derail both of these teams' entire seasons for the most part. I think they're both, unless Oregon doesn't win out, I feel like both those teams, no matter what happens, are New Year's Six bowl teams, regardless of anything else. So, which is going to be fun. I'm actually looking forward to bowl season this year for the games that I get to watch. And maybe we talk about that later on, but
well, before we get into the Michigan thing, since we were talking about Daniels and some of his losses and stuff, I just want to bring up the officiating situation. So I saw an article, they were talking about how to fix college football and college basketball officiating. So one thing it said was have a third-party company hire, fire, and assign officials for games, not the conferences. Make them full-time employees. Public grading system, release every crew's game grade on Mondays, and have a farm system so you can get promoted or demoted. That was just someone's thoughts on that. Thought some of them was pretty good because we talked about it, and the whole got to have Alabama on top has looked even more like, I feel like, well, we did screw Alabama out of being in the college football playoff last year. Nick Saban was right, so we've got to find a way to get him in there. Now, not saying Tennessee would have beat them, not saying LSU would have beat them, but the two games that they looked vulnerable, like that's just what I keep seeing. And I see this hit that Daniels took where he got concussion. Like, it's head to head for one, and he drives him into the ground. And that's all of targeting. That's all of, roughing the passer, which I think they called on that, but that's targeting. Anything that's supposed to be head to head is targeting. And so that's just another thing where, they said there's some other calls, but that was just the main one that kind of just stuck out to me. Like, I don't know. And it could be about Bama. It could be about officials in general. Like, what's y'all's thoughts, Ross?
I said it a couple weeks ago that there needs to be some accountability for these refs. Anybody who listens, you can go back and listen to the last podcast that we did, and I said the same thing, that the refs, whatever, in most cases, yes, they do review targeting, but they don't review anything else or what they miss.
Well, and they
You
only
know,
review targeting if they call it.
yeah. So, but with cameras today, there, I mean, literally almost everything is on camera, and just to, to miss a blatant call, even though it's on camera, to say, well, the rest didn't see it, so they can't call it. I mean, I think that's crap, especially in a moment where it could affect the outcome of a game. Uh, and or if they call it and it's not, it doesn't matter. Well, we called it, so that's the way it is, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's not right. Because I mean, refs are human. Refs make mistakes.
Mhm. And I know in basketball, and just like football, refs are watching certain spots. Not every single ref is watching that great pass. Not everyone's watching the great catch. There's some watching the backfield. There's some watching the line. There's some watching the secondary. In basketball, there's some watching the paint. There's some watching this guard. And there's some watching this guard. And I get it. And we see when they show a replay or something, you see a ref right behind what's happening. You're like, how did he not see it? So I
Like
get it because
how
I
is
don't
the
want to be in that
SEC,
position.
how is the SEC officiating crew not radioing down to the ref? Like, how did you not see that? Like, that's whatever you missed. You missed the pass interference, like, or you missed that holding call. You were staring right at it. Why didn't you call that? And then you could, if they're not going to change that, then I do like that idea, like of having some type of review for these refs at the end of the game or at the end of the year or every few games, and saying, okay, you've missed this, and this, uh, and you called this when it didn't need to be called. Uh, we're going to demote you down this league, and we're going to bring that. Demote, promote. Here's a bonus. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know if they.
Well, maybe that should be a thing. Maybe it should be a bonus for every game that's on this grading system. I know baseball. I don't know if this is just people who do it or if this is actual grading system, but I know baseball, they sit there and they were talking about that Angel Hernandez, which is like the worst baseball umpire ever. But they were talking about the World Series, talking about this one guy that on balls and strikes got like 99% of them right, and was talking about, and I've seen different things like that. And then they also break it down to the ones that are like right there, on the line of that could go either way, that according to their zone, was still, they were still pretty correct. So maybe we need that, be like, all right, you were supposed to, like they said, like, all right, you're the sideline ref and you're supposed to watch the line. You missed 2 false starts, and or you missed 2 offsides, or that's your spot and somebody had a holding right there, and I get it. That means somebody's going to have to, there's got to be certain officials, watching every single game and every single camera at the officials headquarters or something, so I get it. It'd probably be tough for them to go, you got to see this. Or if it's a big play that a coach has called in or something, then maybe they need to look that in, because it's different if the Arkansas fan base or the Tennessee fan base or the Washington fan base, when they complain about, oh, we lost tonight, blah, 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 the refs, the refs, the refs. But if you have like other people and like college game day people or ESPN, or you have all these people, Stephen A. Smith, talking about it, then you should be like, well, they can't be biased. So maybe we need to look into this game. Let's look into this targeting that everybody's talking about and be like, yeah, you called roughing the passer. So you saw that. So how did you not see the head to head? So maybe there needs to be something, or, in NFL, when they get a penalty called on them, they do get fined, so maybe you don't get all of your check, or maybe that's a point taken off because now you can't do one of the bowl games, maybe that's the different options.
And that's really just the point that I'm trying to make is there seems to be no accountability for the refs and what they call. And I hate it because I'm kind of in a similar situation with my job. Like, we have a certain group of people that that are literally held to no account whatsoever. Whatever decision they make is what goes, and we have literally been told, "Don't question us."
Yeah.
By this group, don't question us. They can't be sued. They can't be reprimanded. They can't be anything. That's just we will make the decision, and you stick with it and suck it up. And if anything goes wrong, it's on you. It's your fault. You know what I mean? Like there's zero accountability, and I can't stand it. And it's not right because it the same way with this work, like the work situation, like it can affect different outcomes. And with same with these refs, you know, if they are not held to any account, any type of accountability, and they blatantly miscall, decide, well, we think that's not pass interference, or we think that's not targeting, or whatever, and somebody who should have won didn't win, or somebody who won that shouldn't have won, and you know, people make think, well, you should have just played better. You should have done something different. I'm like, okay, well, maybe so, but the referee definitely affected the outcome, and there's no accountability for them. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that the refs are perfect. They're not, and they never will be. They're human beings, but give them some type of incentive, or you know, some consequences for what they're doing, for how they're calling the game, and I guarantee it'll probably shape up pretty quick.
Ron?
If you want, the problem is with all of this is that, you know, yes, there does need to be reforms in reffing. Obviously, like everybody knows that. You know, and that's, you know, and I feel like I will give leagues this credit. There has been a lot of things that have come a long way, positive steps towards, you know, better reffing. But like when it comes to protecting particular teams and everything like that, I don't know if there's anything you can actually do, or anyone, not you, but like, I don't know if there's anything to be done to fix that, because why would they want to hold themselves accountable and when they want someone to be like in a specific spot? That's like, you know, this is how it goes. And then, you know, I'm going to use the NFL as an example. I absolutely believe, and I'm trying not to be a super Broncos fan right now, but I absolutely believe, after watching countless of their games, that the Chiefs get favorable calls to win games, or to be put, not to win games. I'm actually going to amend that, to be put into position to win games when it matters most. I don't know if I mentioned it here, but I have talked about this before. I watched a documentary on Amazon Prime. It's a really good documentary. Like, believe it or not, it's about the Kelce brothers. It's specifically about Jason Kelce, but it's about the Kelce brothers, and they couldn't even get away with it. It got to a point, like it was leading up to the Eagles. It was last year's Super Bowl, Eagles and the Chiefs Super Bowl, and there was a part where it showed him watching or listening to the AFC Championship game. What happens in the AFC Championship game? Well, they get a very favorable call at the very end of the game that puts them in position to, I think, kick a field goal to win the game. And then again, in the Super Bowl, what happens? Eagles have it in hand. Yes, there are things the Eagles could have done differently, but the Eagles have it pretty much, or almost have it in hand. And at the very end of the game, what happens? Well, there's a flag thrown to put the Chiefs in position to win the game.
Yeah, but that's different than some of those iffy calls. That was a major holding call.
But what I'm saying is they do this.
Well, I know what you're saying, but that's different because that's a major holding call. That was his jersey got pulled. That's not one of those you can go, that's 50-50.
But why would they want this stuff to happen? It's because the Chiefs, rightfully so, you can argue rightfully so, are the new Patriots, who were the new what was the team dominant for the Patriots? I feel like it was the San Francisco 49ers or the new Broncos. You know what I mean? It's like you always have that one dynasty that is really good, and you want them to kind of be the face of your league in that sense. You saw it happening this year. Now,
Well,
that
Patrick
hasn't
Mahomes
happened.
is fun to watch, and so you
That's
don't want Patrick Mahomes to be on a crappy team, just like the Golden State Warriors. You
yeah,
don't want
yeah.
Steph
So
Curry to not be in the playoffs. And, just like the whole thing with Michael Jordan, we talked about Michael Jordan made that comment, you're not, you're a rookie. You're not going to get an all-star call when you haven't established yourself. And I don't think that's right,
yeah,
because Michael Jordan would foul a lot and they would never call anything and he'd get a steal and go dunk. And I'm like, that's not fair,
yeah. And
because
that's the point I'm
I
trying to
want
get
you
to.
to call that on him.
Yep.
I don't care if he is scoring 30 points a game. I don't care if he's the face of the NBA. He needs to play defense. He needs to play offense. So I totally agree with that, but that's the thing where we're at, and we've talked about this. That's the reason why the Alabamas are there. That's the reason why
Yes.
the Chiefs are there. And
Yep. That's it. And I'm not saying those teams aren't good. Those like the Chiefs are good. Like you can't, or they have been good in the past. I think it's a toss up this year how good they are. It does not mean they're not good, but how good they are this year just because of some of their offensive issues. But they do it. I mean, I don't know if we're upset that they do that or that we're upset that our teams aren't in position to get those favorable calls right now. And will there be a day that they are in a position to get those
but the
favorable
thing
calls?
is, so my thing about that is the Chiefs were okay. Alex Smith would get them there, and Andy Reid was there, Travis Kelce was there. And so, they were already kind of good. And so then they get Mahomes, Alex Smith, is hurt, and Patrick Mahomes takes over and he just, wows the crowd, and they get Tyreek Hill and, and go from there. But, like the Cowboys, I'm kind of thinking, is the NFL still want the Cowboys to be, because they still consider them America's team? Do they still want the Cowboys to be the laughing stock? Because they talk about how good they are. Well, they've played the Giants. The Giants are crap. So they've scored 80 something points on them. Whoop-de-doo. Like, again, the Giants are crap. And, but like 49ers in the last 15 years have been somewhat relevant. Jim Harbaugh had them there, and then he leaves and then they go back to crap again. Shanahan takes over and they are actually competitive with third string talent. And then they finally get Garoppolo and they become talent again. They have a good defense. Their offense is okay. Then they start getting Debo and George Kittle, and they start getting, Mostert, and they start drafting some people. And now they moved on. They have Brock Purdy. And, they're talking about, oh, Brock Purdy, he's great, he's great, he's great. And as soon as he has one bad game, it's like, oh, 49ers in trouble. 49ers are crap. Okay, you know what? The best quarterbacks in the league have more interceptions than him, and we're dogging Brock Purdy, and the 49ers, just like all the time, they weren't healthy. Their best offense lineman was gone. Their best weapon in Debo Samuel is gone. McCaffrey is banged up. And but yet they get called for every kind of holding and pass interference going down the field on defense. They can never get to the thing because they're being held, and so like you said, could it be, we're just angry about that? Possibly. But then again, when does another team become relevant? When do they get to that halfway point of they start getting some of those favorable calls? Like how did the Bengals beat the Chiefs to make it to the Super Bowl that year? What made them favorable? Is it just because we wanted to be on that Joe Burrow ride? Because their offensive line sucked. So no, I agree, and I think it's just kind of stinks with that. But
Yeah, it does. I mean, and then again, like there's no answer to it. The only answer to it is there has to be a mass exodus of fans who wake up and realize it and then stop watching the product. And are we going to do that realistically? Probably not. It just, or you hope that the right people get into place.
Well, it's kind of
Because,
like
like,
LeBron James.
how many good teams without a star, quote unquote, have been hindered because of that reality? There've been a lot. I mean, I would say quite a lot anyway, or quite a few anyways. And then it also doesn't help when the mass majority, or it feels like the mass majority of people, are more okay with the status quo, being in a championship game or being in the hunt, than, like, everyone in college football, we need more parity, we need more parity, we need more parity. But it's like last year people complained about, and maybe they weren't good enough to be in it ultimately, but people complained about TCU being in it. It's like, but this is what we wanted. We wanted the parity. We wanted it not to be Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. We got a little bit different, and it was good. Might not have been as world breaking as we wanted it to be. And then even this year, we're on the cusp of, a whole new, well, I want to say a whole new, but potentially a fairly new crew of people. We're also on the cusp too of it being Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan, depending on how some of these games go at the end of the year, in the championship games, because just how it goes.
Yeah.
But the only team I don't want to see in the college football playoffs is Missouri, and I got my wish already. Thank you. I can't believe I'm saying this. Thank you, LSU, and thank you, Georgia.
So staying with college football, we'll probably just depend on where we go with this. We're going to talk about Michigan and the situation it's in with Harbaugh. So, he got Michigan self-imposed a 3-game suspension earlier this year, based on some stuff that had come out. And so what's really got them in trouble now, where he's sidelined, he can still coach during the week, but he can't coach during the games for the rest of the season, is for sign stealing scheme. And I was talking about it with somebody the other day, and they're like, well, if you're just, a good coach and you've got people that can read the signs from the sideline, then that's just kind of, good strategy. But it's more than that. Like, if you don't know, they were sending Michigan officials out to other Big Ten games. So people who work for the Michigan university, sending them to other Big Ten games. So going to Michigan State, going to Ohio State, going to all those different schools and watching numerous games. And watching the signs that they sent on the field and watching their plays and stuff like that. Because, another thing we're talking about is, well, you can watch the game and see the plays that they run, so you don't have to be at the game, but it's the signs, like Tennessee has those guys in red, green, and blue on the sideline that hold up the big, black banner behind them, and each guy's doing something, but the quarterback's looking at one, and so, I guess if you sit here and watch enough of that, you go, oh, that's a deep post route. Oh, that's a quarterback sneak. Oh, that's a run to the left, and then you go, hey, every time we see this, then this happens. And who knows? That could be why Michigan's good. Maybe that's why their defense looks so good. I was talking about this before. South Carolina dominated Tennessee last year. Tennessee was unstoppable on offense. And they go to South Carolina, and South Carolina scores on every single possession they get, stops Tennessee, and Tennessee can't get any momentum going. Like, it was just unheard of. And when all this stuff came up, somebody showed a wristband that one of the South Carolina players were wearing, and it was color-coded in the colors of those coaches for Tennessee. So it's kind of like, if they look down, they're like, oh, I know it is going to be that run to the left. And that's maybe how they knew about it. But, and that's kind of like if you and I were playing Madden, and I look over at your screen and I see you go and select that screen pass. And I go, oh, my defense is not ready for that. So let me audible my defense and let me cheat my linebacker over, or when you play those certain games and people screen watch, that's kind of what that is. You're not actually playing to be better for yourself. You're just trying to get a little more of an advantage. And that's not strategy. That's not making yourself better. So, Ron, I'm gonna let you start with that. What's your thoughts on this whole thing?
I go back and forth on certain thoughts. First, for starters, I'm going to say this: it is going to be, especially if both teams win next week, it is going to be one of the most fun, and I'm not joking, for the fun of it. It is going to be one of the most fun, and talked about, and maybe even watched Ohio State Michigan games of all time, and I am here for that. Like, I am excited. My plan is to be in a chair in that room watching that game. Likely it's on Friday or Saturday. It doesn't matter. I'll probably try to be watching that game before I go anywhere. Anyways, it's not right. I think the problem is that across the board, it feels like most people do something like this. Now, do I think this is probably extreme? I absolutely do think it's extreme, because the that Connor guy, he is, I mean, I really think he would die for that program. And when I say that, I really think he would die for that program. And everything. It's a little bit, so I don't know how I truly 100% feel about it. I'm not a fan. Like, I'm not saying it's like, you should do that. But there is some part of, like, this is studying the game that that is a part of this. So again, like, I'm trying to, I have different thoughts on the whole entire matter.
Well, here, so one thing, so keep on with that real quick. So, like, it's even as far as this guy dressed up in Central Michigan gear and was on the sidelines for the Central Michigan opener against Michigan State.
Yeah. That's
how far it is.
That's what I wonder. I want to know how deep the web is. We know the surface stuff. The surface stuff is Michigan. I want to know how deep it goes, because to do something
with
like
other
that,
teams, or
yes, like, because I know that they said early on that there is a South Carolina connection here. Mm-hmm. So, and in the past, I don't know why, I don't know his actual connection to the place, but last year when they thought Harbaugh was going to leave, who did they, a name that came up in the next Michigan head coach search, or not search, but the next Michigan head coach kind of hot board, was Shane Beamer. So I was like, when, like, it all kind of just, and like, so if like they say Central Michigan, all right, this is what we're going to do. The Central Michigan coaches have to allow it, or whoever has to allow it. What are they getting in return? So, like, what did South Carolina give Michigan in return for this information and everything? Like that, I want to know how deep the web goes, and I'm sure it goes a lot deeper than what we know. And
like I said,
it kind of makes it fun. I hate that it's happening, but it makes it really fun to follow.
Well, they've said that, and I think it was Ross or somebody said a couple weeks ago, the NFL or the college football, or college in any aspect, has always been paying players.
Yeah.
Whether it was like, oh, they get this car, there's that movie Blue Chips, I think, that had Nick Nolte, Shaquille O'Neal, had Penny Hardaway, and had this other guy. And so Nick Nolte, was this Hall of Fame coach, and he was
Yeah.
kind of out of his prime. And so they're like, oh, you got to start doing this. You got to start getting boosters and stuff. And he goes, no, that's not how we do it here. And then he starts looking into it, and it's kind of like, well, this is what everybody's doing, and so he's like, well, if you want to be back in the program, and be the spotlight, you got to do this. And so they get this guy, get his family a tractor, and then they give this guy money and get this guy. Then he has this awesome team, and they're just winning everything. Come to find out, he is doing that, and everything goes downhill from there. So it's like, like with Nick Saban, is he able to recruit these guys because he knows how to wipe it clean where he won't get caught? Where Jeremy Pruitt was doing, like Jeremy Pruitt was on, Saban's staff, and he got in trouble because he's putting money in McDonald bags. So is that something similar to what he learned in Alabama? And and Nick Saban, was like, wipe my hands of it. And I didn't do anything like that. Because I would look at that stuff. If these offensive or these head coaches that used to be on somebody's staff that was on a winning, I'd be like, well, we got to look at the connections of that. Or are these people just that desperate? I want to beat my person, so I want to get the same people. Because that's what Jeremy Pruitt said. He goes, I want to recruit the people that Georgia and Alabama are recruiting. Why would you not want to recruit those people? I remember him saying that. And true, you want that top linebacker. You want that because that's what he's going for. So obviously they're the best. But,
and now here's
one of those things, I'm sure they were doing it. So
here's the way to combat the sign stealing, the sign cheating, that cheating, this cheating aspect of it. The best way to combat that, there's three ways. The first way is simplify the game of football. Like, I forgot who said it, but it was actually pretty recent that someone said the game's gotten overcomplicated. Like, how plays are running or how plays are called and all these concepts and things like that. And we kind of just need to back up a little bit and simplify the game because, it will probably do better if we just simplify the game a little bit. I agree with that statement. And everything. The second way is, like, now, I don't know how there are some people that recognize it really quick and they're like, something's going on here. What you do in that situation is you stop calling signs in, and you, like on offense, you run in, you have someone run the play in. But also, I don't know why it hasn't gotten to this point yet. Major college football, and I say major college football as in like D1, definitely needs to implement the helmet microphones for quarterbacks and someone on defense. Whoever the person you have on defense that you want to do that. I think it's probably past time that happens. It's effective for NFL. It works for them. And that's kind of like what college football is fun and as awesome as it is. It's amateur sports on purpose, and it's designed to help people get better to go to the NFL, give the quarterbacks that ability in college so that they can acclimate to it when they get into the NFL and things like that technology. So those are a couple ways to combat it. I don't know what's going to happen, for Michigan. I don't think it keeps them. I definitely don't think it keeps them out of the, if they went out, I don't think it keeps them out of the playoffs. Jim Harbaugh's been suspended. I think that's all that's done is galvanize the team.
Well, it's one of those things where
interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes after the season's played out.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where like with Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll, with all that stuff that happened with Reggie Bush and the other stuff that's happened with Chip Kelly, they jumped to the NFL, and then their teams got penalized, lost scholarships and things like that. And I hate when the school gets in trouble for something that a coach did and now he's gone. Like, Jimbo Fisher, he's fixing to be fired. So let's come up and say something about they've been recruiting wrong. Well, now Texas A&M is going to lose 10 scholarships. He's still making $80 million because that's his buyout. And it's just like, that's not fair. I feel like if you get fired They need to change that stuff. If you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing to get your contract, then you need to be fired. So like Harbaugh, there needs to be something with him other than just because like he can go, well, you know what? I know he wants to be on the sidelines, but there should be some other kind of punishment for him. So, but Ross, what are your thoughts, or do you have any really take on this?
So I was sitting here thinking, about the whole sign stealing thing and kind of and what they did to do that and the lengths that they took. I mean, honestly, I was like, man, I think Jim Harbaugh's about to get fired over this. They didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't. Because you look back on the well, what do you call it? The thing the Patriots did. Big that big stink.
Spygate, yeah.
Probably where he learned it from.
Anyway, I was sitting here thinking.
They were sending that. They sent people to the closed practices for the Eagles to get ready for the Super Bowl. Not the ones that the media could go to, the closed practices. So
I mean, think about that.
I remember being in high school and playing. I was in 10th grade, and it was baseball, and we were in the state tournament, and I don't know how long Tom Richardson had been doing this, but he had actually specifically set Jace Bradford up and to watch. He told him, "You watch the other coach, the other bench, and you try to figure out their signals." And there was a couple. I know there was a couple times Jace he figured it out. Like, okay, he's like, I think I figured it out. And either when he does this, that means they're about to do this. And so, does that cross a line there? Like doing it in game, like he was doing it in game. Like, of course, you at that time weren't, couldn't really film. They weren't really filming games. Baseball. I mean, they have their analytics and whatever, but especially college. I mean, you can watch games, but I was high school. So, is there a line? Like, can you try to you try to figure it out during the game to see what you know?
See,
If you can
I feel like if Michigan sat right here and goes, hey, every time the guy in red holds his arm up, it's been a pass. He's done it 5 times and it's been a pass every time. Or he's done it 25 times, they've passed it 25 times. But when the green guy puts his arms down when the guy holds his arm, that means it's been a screen pass. He's done it 5 times and they've done a screen pass 5 times, So I feel like
I don't think that's cheating. I think that's
I don't think that
strategizing.
is.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that's cheating.
Because that actually
game. But to specifically send, because you can watch film, but you're not going to be able to see what they're doing on the sideline. You're not going to be see the call, the signs.
And then they might have different plays for your game.
And
you watch film for Ohio State, Michigan, and then they play you, and then what they did against Michigan was different.
But to send a delegate specifically to another game to try to pick up on what they're doing just so you can get a leg up, or I would say that's cheating.
And to pretend to be a different fan.
But it's just so funny.
And is there, I mean, did they have, I mean, I don't know all the rules and regulations of NCAA football. I mean, was there a loophole that they could have exploited doing that?
No, that's straight.
Because I mean, truthfully, like you would think, like, okay, Harbaugh, you condone this and you implemented it and condoned it and you put it in place and told them to go do it. Yeah, I would say that's almost a fireable offense. But they only suspended.
Well, this is a
Michigan
rule that has
is
been
not going to fire him.
Well, yeah, I guess not. But I mean, like, could
well, like this is a rule that's been in effect
as long as he's a coach, you're not going to a bowl game.
Yeah.
Then they would fire.
This is a rule that has been in effect since 1994. With the sign stealing and stuff, and so it's not like it just came up in 2013 or something. So it's been there, and
so it's been there. So he should have known.
Yeah. So what's gonna happen, I think, is because I think it starts out because like this wasn't an NCAA decree that suspended him. That was the Ohio State, and not my bad. That was the Big Ten that suspended him for 4 games and everything. So I think what's going to happen. I'm not joking either. I think they're going to if they try to interfere anymore, I think Michigan will leave the conference. And I back that up with some Michigan beat writers already hinting at it that they will leave the conference if need be. Like that's kind of what made that on the fun side of this, what's made this more interesting to follow is that, you talk about them firing him. And the only reason why I said they won't fire him is because immediately Michigan, the whole stinking college, the whole stinking athletic program doubled down to support him. And which I thought that is because like the basketball team did it. I think some of the women's teams did it. There was like a letter that the president of the school sent out and everything. And also, and part of that is because they think this is some kind of like, even if the cheating, I'm pretty sure obviously happened, but they think this is actually all a ploy by Ohio State to make sure they get into the playoffs, and Michigan doesn't get into the playoffs this year, especially potentially the championship game. Dude, I'm telling you, if your eyes are not on that game and everything leading up to that game on a Saturday of after Thanksgiving, then you're missing out. You're just missing out.
So here's what's going to happen. So if Ohio State wins, then they'll be like, see, that's what you get. You couldn't sign still, so you couldn't beat us. But if then Michigan wins, then I feel like more people are going to be so involved to see, did they find another way? Like, are you going to turn in your playbook to the NCAA to, see what your plays are? Or if people are going to like there's the FBI was a part of the investigation. So is the FBI going to have to be at all your things? And they're like, ooh, they just called Red 42. That's one of the plays for Ohio State. So they can't do that. Like how far is it going to go for them to say, or you have to record your practices so they can turn that info in to see if you're already it's going to be crazy to determine, because I feel like no situation is a good outcome for Michigan State or for Michigan. If they lose and it's like, haha, see, cheaters don't win.
Here's just something to think about. And this goes back to like what I said a couple weeks ago, or maybe the first podcast, like that the NIL deals have always been there. Players have always been getting paid, right? Before NIL. Okay, so is it only Michigan that's doing this, or are they just the ones that got caught?
Yeah.
No, it's definitely not only Michigan doing it.
Right, like, it's not. I mean,
now I take that back.
I'm not saying everybody is, but
it might be the most elaborate way that it's happening. It is crazy.
And that's the thing. It's like
have that dude on the sideline.
They're just the ones that went way out there with it and got caught. Everybody else is doing it. They're just smart enough to not get caught.
Well, it might have been where they were everybody has been like, well, we're only going to send people to the game. And Michigan's like, let's go a step further. Let's put him on the sidelines. And that's when
awesome. It's awesome that they had it's awesome that they had the gall to do that. I love that. What would make this thing even better? If it turns out this guy was an Ohio State fan the whole entire time.
Yeah.
That would make this thing, that would just blow this whole thing open.
And when he was 8 years old, a picture of him in Ohio State gear.
What's the whole saying? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah. Because that would just solidify this as the best rivalry in all sports. If it turns out that this dude was an Ohio State fan who was playing a diehard Michigan fan to such a degree that he got them to do this just so he could blow them up in the future. I mean,
what if
It would be. It
What
would
if
just.
the whole time, like
I
he
want a
was going to
movie.
like lead them to be
Oscar-worthy movie.
undefeated, leave them be undefeated, come to this game, and then tells Jim Harbaugh all the wrong plays.
That would be awesome. That would be so awesome.
He's like, yeah, this is a run play. I thought you said it was run play. Well, it was last week, you know.
Give me a comedy drama movie out of this because it's too funny to not.
Oh, they're gonna make a documentary out of it, no doubt.
Oh no, there's gonna be a documentary, but I'm talking
30
like
on 30.
Oscar. I'm talking Oscar worthy movie. Give me that. Give me a dramatized version of this whole thing from the point of view of the guy.
Like
Right.
going like and make it satirical and like he's going into witness protection afterwards. And
No, make it a drama. Like just give it good comedy elements because it's like the comedy elements are the fans who talk about it and who get to witness it because we're all having a good time.
yeah, just
College football is so stupid and fun. It's
like I don't depend on my team to be talented enough to win this game, so I'm gonna go try to cheat to do it.
oh, that's the thing too. It's like when you're part of like a bad team and everyone's cheating. You're sitting there going, not everyone's cheating. It's very clear that some of us are not cheating or at least are not good enough at cheating.
Yeah. If you're cheating, still losing, something's wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to our last topic. So Marvel has come out with a lot of updates recently. Some of them are just kind of updates to just kind of push it out there of, you know, when the Avengers Secret Wars, the Kang Dynasty, you know, Fantastic Four, you know, some of those things when those movies were coming out. You know, they just released the Marvels. But one thing that came out was that they are reportedly considering the new Avengers movie, like the characters, the new Avengers, being filmed with the original cast. That was one thing that was talked about, and then it was reported that Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland, Zendaya, and all of them are in talks to be in Iron Man 4. That was a pretty serious thing. Like it's already in the works of working on a script. So, you know, I've seen some people go, well, there you go. You know, Marvel's run out of ideas. But I don't know if it's the ideas. It's just one of the things where technically all these movies are just sequels of each other. You know, Captain Marvel is technically somewhere down the road a distant cousin, a sequel to Iron Man, because there's all these connections. You know, it's not just like you have Jurassic Park and then you have Titanic. You know, you have two different movies. All this is just one big universe, and the fact that they have opened the door with the multiverse, and you know, you don't, Venom, you know, and now with, you know, Fox and all them going together, you know, you can bring in 3 different, you know, Iron Mans. You can bring in, you know, we have 3 different Marvels, and you know, there's so many different things you can do. Plus, the other thing I saw was they're like, well, you know, Tony Stark's dead, so how can you bring him back? Well, Agent Coulson was dead, and if anybody didn't watch it, but the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, you know, it went after the Avengers and movie, and then it kind of went through the whole Civil War and the whole Hydra, you know, coming out of the woodwork and stuff of certain S.H.I.E.L.D. agents being Hydra agents. But I'm going to read this article real quick. Not really article, it's just a little thing. So it says, as of 2023, Tony Stark is officially dead, but that doesn't mean he can't be brought back. And then it went on to say, so we're in 2026. The new Avengers need Tony Stark for whatever reason. So they travel back in time to 2023. After the funeral, they simply take Tony's corpse out of the coffin and take it back with them. And the new Avengers revive Tony Stark. Voila, Iron Man has returned. So the thing in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was Project Tahiti, where Coulson's dead body was taken there, and they kind of made up, a different past in a way. He remembers being on the beach and stuff like that. But Agent Coulson was brought back to life, ran Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., kind of disappointed that he never worked his way back into the movies besides, the Marvel movies or Captain Marvel, because I really liked him as a character. But that was one thing that they talked about, how Coulson came back to life, and so maybe they could find a way for Tony Stark to be back to life. Or and then it talked about how Tony, they talked about how he looked directly at his daughter Morgan and said, "I love you 3000" at the end of the Avengers movie. And so some people are thinking maybe he uploaded his brain into a computer just like Zola did, and that was back in the 40s when he uploaded his brain, and now it's 2023. So Tony Stark's got to have the stuff to be able to upload himself, and so maybe that's how they kind of bring him back. So there's just different things right there. Like I don't think you're ever going to compete with the first Avengers movie. I think a lot of the movies are just as good, but you can't have, like, if you keep going on with this, you have to have different characters, because Iron Man's going to be 80 years old. If you look at in the movies, Hank Pym is an older character who's not Ant-Man, where in the comics, Hank Pym was Ant-Man. And so, you've got to move on, and you've got to, have a different Captain America. You possibly go a different route of having someone similar to Iron Man. But then again, you can bring back and have different ones because you have the different multiverses. So, Ross, what's your thoughts? Have you read anything, heard anything, have any concerns, anything like that?
Well, first off, I'm way behind on Marvel. I keep intending to sit down and watch it. Maybe I will. I probably will pretty soon to get caught up. Like, I still haven't watched Quantum Mania. I haven't watched She-Hulk. I haven't watched Secret Wars. I haven't watched Marvels that just came out in theaters. But
you won't have to watch. Secret Wars has not come out yet, so
I think it's meaning Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. Sorry, Secret Invasion. So I'm way behind, but just the idea that Marvel's run out of ideas, like, that is so asinine and stupid, because like, it's based off a comic series, comic books. Like, there's so many different directions they could go. But like, Ryan, you enjoyed the movie that came out, right?
which one? The Marvels?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. It was super
Really good.
fun.
So that one's getting trashed online.
Yeah, but that's the reason why that one's getting trashed online, and it has nothing to do with the
That's the
actual
thing, though.
movie.
Is like, and this is just me, my personal opinion here, but I think it's kind of fact too. Is like, you're just gonna have those people out there who literally cannot enjoy anything. They will find something wrong with everything.
Yeah.
And Marvel, yeah, people say it, obviously it peaked and should have ended after Endgame, and it's like, then those people they can't find enjoyment in anything. They can't go to a movie and sit down and watch it and enjoy it for what it is.
Well, my thing with that, which you saying that it needs to stop at Endgame. Well, you know what? Then let's not reboot anything. Because, like, I thought they were very successful and they were very good, but they did a whole new Jurassic Park series of movies, called them Jurassic World, and had characters. Now, they did connect them back to the other movies, and they did bring back the characters, especially in the last movie, but there was I'm sure it's still going on, but I know there's like 10 years ago they were talking about the top 10 movies of that current year. 8 of them were reboots from movies like in the 70s and 80s, and 2 other ones were just sequels. So none of them was like an original idea. But the thing is, okay, you thought this horror movie that was in the 70s, it had the cheap effects, and they used certain things to be the blood, or like jello to be brains and stuff. And you're like, man, as a director, I could go above and beyond and make this more gruesome than this, that these people thought, was so scary in the 70s. I can make it the scariest movie of all time, and the joke of like with the Freddys and the Jasons and the Michaels, and how you do whatever and they continue to die, or they continue to come back when you kill them. Well, who says that they can die? And they keep coming out with Halloween movies. They keep coming out with, like Freddy's Final Nightmare. Okay, he's had like 5 more since then. Like, I feel like it's, Brett Favre, oh, it's my final game. Well, you've had 8 of those. And so everybody's ticket that was like going to be a memorable ticket, that this is your final football game, doesn't mean crap to you, because now you went to 3 different teams, and so like, you're absolutely right. Like, and some of it is people that are DC fans, they just want to pick apart everything out of jealousy because you wanted to change the whole Batman and Superman movie or Justice League movie to have more comedy in it because of the funniness that Avengers had. Be your own thing. You're DC. You're supposed to be dark. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I gotta say this. Like, some of it is too, is it just, I know people, don't like having the diversity conversation, but there are certain people out there that just, they can't stand any type of diversity, like any type of diversity, and like, that's just, I'm not in like an argument with this person because I think it's freaking hilarious. But I made a comment on someone else's Twitter post today who was talking about the Marvels, and they were talking good about it. Someone I follow, and I said, I half jokingly, but my thought is, if you don't like the Marvels movie, you just don't like fun. That's my thing. And then some guy commented on it about how he doesn't like the Marvels movie and everything. And I was kind of bantering back and forth with him, but I went and looked at his page, and his page is just filled with like complaining about everything. And I'm not joking when I say it either. If you go down his page, he's complaining about this, he's complaining about this, he's complaining about this. And so I responded to him eventually. I was like, you just like to complain, bud. And I think that's, you say you want all this stuff to go away, but I don't know if you'd be able to live with yourself if all of this stuff disappeared tomorrow, because you wouldn't have anything else to complain about. And so it's just, that's the way it is. And like I said, the Marvels movie is like super fun. Like, getting into a technical aspect of it, like, some of the movies not been as good as they could be. I think Love and Thunder went too much for comedy, which is not good. Quantumania could have been better, but Quantumania is still a good movie. I liked it a whole lot. But I'm not joking when I say this. Like, if you go watch the Marvels movie, it doesn't throw anything in your face for people that, are like, I'm so tired of diversity and things like that. It's not preaching to you a message. It's literally just an adventure story and how they overcome the situation that they're dealing with and how that situation began with in the first place. And it's just so much fun. Like, it's like you leave that movie and you're going, wow. And it sets up the future really well. I won't give any spoilers away, but it sets it up. And it's like, there's a very, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening moment at the very end of the movie. So,
well, it's, I see like Quantumania being like Pirates of the Caribbean 2. When Pirates of the Caribbean was such a big hit, they automatically said we'll come out with a second and third movie. and they already had their thoughts on what the third movie needs to do and how they want to finish the series. And so they're like, this is all the stuff that's got to happen in the second movie. And I feel like with them trying to push Kang the Conqueror in all his different variants, from He Who Remains in the original Loki series to his role in Quantumanium, and then he's going to have parts in the new Loki series, and he's supposed to be in the Kang Dynasty. You know, I feel like there's so much that had to happen and explain and go on. And I think that's where a lot of people didn't like it. And it's just like, yeah, it does suck. But then again, you've got to get this stuff in, because between now, 2023 to 2026 is before we lead up to the Kang Dynasty Avengers movie. Where back X amount of years ago, Hulk and Iron Man started the journey all the way to, Endgame.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have to make all these stories lead up, because, we saw the scepter and we've seen, all the other things. We never saw the Soul Stone, but we saw all these, the Power Stone in Guardians of the Galaxy, and we heard Infinity Stone, but unless you were a comic book reader, you didn't know what the Infinity Stone was. You're just like, okay, it's an Infinity Stone. What does that mean? Like, what is this going to do? And then if you're not one of those people that watch the end credits, you're not going to see, Thanos go, fine, I'll just do it myself, and all that other stuff, and then it leads to that point, and especially in Infinity War, when all the characters get, disappeared and killed off right there, and everybody's mad. Well, how do you kill everybody off? That's stupid, stupid, stupid. I have to wait a whole year for the movie. That, like, it's got to be set up for that. Like, you've got to understand where it's coming from. Like, you can't, and now with them saying certain movies and people dying and stuff, you can't have every movie just ending in a happy ending. So, but Ross, I do agree. I feel like it's just kind of a bunch of sour grapes, and now, has every movie of Marvel been the best movie ever? No. Just like some of the series, some of the series I would go, I could probably get away with that, but so.
But I mean, it's going to be almost probably 2 decades worth of movies and TV shows. I mean, sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, and like I said, they could make probably 3 or 4 decades of movies and TV shows out of all the Marvel comics and all the multiverse storylines that Stan Lee and the rest of them came up with.
Well, and also it's like, this is one of these parents that sit in the stands and yells at the coaches. And it's like, you know what? You come coach. You had your chance to coach this Pee Wee team. You chose not to. You can do better. Get down here. So if you think you can make a movie better, go make a movie.
Mm.
Redo the whole Marvel series and make it better. Decide, no, I don't want to do Marvels, or I don't want to do Ant-Man. We're not going to put them in the Marvel universe. Or just start your own Marvel DC and have, them go at it like we did Batman, Superman. Just have Iron Man and Bruce Wayne kind of go at it, So, all right, guys. I think that's going to be it for this podcast. All the listeners, I know, seeing that we've had some listeners from some other places, I can't remember the places offhand right now. Thought it's been kind of cool. Saw where we have somebody in their 60s. Now, again, somebody could lie about that, but thought that was kind of cool if that's true, if somebody's putting that date in there. But anybody that's listening, appreciate anybody listening. Each podcast has a little poll or questionnaire. Please feel free to add anything in there. You can email us. You can comment on there if you have any topics you want us to talk about, or if you would like to come on the podcast and possibly debate with us. But for Ron and Ross and me, We're signing out for another episode. We will see you in a couple weeks.